Morning. Morning. How's everyone doing? Oh, beans. Oh. I really should have run the dishwasher yesterday is what I'm learning right now. That is what I learned. Do not twist. To open, pinch, rim, and pull. Okay. This is a new container. Pinch and pull. How do you... Really? That's what it says. Do not twist. Well, how am I supposed to break the seal? Pinch, rim, and pull. Oh my gosh, you guys. That was harder than it needed to be. Why did they need to make a new container? The old container was fine. Okay, pull here and peel back. Wow, there's a disclaimer on the lid now. It says, and I quote, pull here, peel back, read this. By opening and using this product, you agree to be bound by our terms and conditions fully set forth at vitalproteins.com/TC, which includes a mandatory arbitration agreement. If you do not agree to being bound, please return this product immediately. What? On collagen protein? What are we doing here, friends? Like, what world are we living in where collagen proteins needs arbitration? Guys, people need to go to, good morning, and welcome to my TED Talk about how people need to go touch grass, because this is getting insane. The world has gone too far, friends. The world has gone just too far. I don't even know what to say about that. I truly don't know what to say. What a strange thing to open your new collagen proteins to. Well, I've just agreed to arbitration, so there's that, I suppose. Jeez. What a strange circumstance. There was an empty half and half container in my fridge. Guess who made coffee yesterday? I feel that would not hold up in court. Open this and throw away your life. I mean, just absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. How is everyone this morning? You guys have a day off? Does anyone have a day off? I don't know. There was a whole team of people sitting around the table discussing the new lid. I know, it's wild, right? I don't have the day off, but we are going to pumpkin patch with my sister and her kids this morning. It's not rainy here, but it is gloomy, which I don't know if that's good or bad for the pumpkin patch, but here it is no less. This one was new. Then I will do orders the rest of the day. Oh no, you were sick? That doesn't sound good for someone. I'm sorry to hear that. Not great. No, my company doesn't do extra holidays. Yeah, I only just heard about that recently, that some people don't do that. My company also doesn't do extra holidays, as you all know. But it is what it is. Hey, Karen. Karen, does Carlos have off today? We are musing about who gets off and who does not for the holiday today. I heard in California it's not a thing. Well, Secret Husband has off. His whole company has off. So, I mean, it's a thing here for some people, I guess. His company is based in California. here in LA. So, I mean, I don't know. Becca, do the kids have off school? Yes, they do. Well, I don't know. I have no explanation for the wishy-washy then. So schools are closed. It was a sad day to realize I didn't get MLK Day off, President's Day, etc. Our kids have school and only the post office is closed. Weird. He has a floating holiday, so he's working days so he can have the day off after I mean, that makes sense, Karen. I would do the same thing, actually. Hey, Grayson. Grayson, do you have... Well, I guess your company, it's not the same. We were asking everybody who has off and who does not today. See, her husband has off, but he's going to do some work anyway, and he's going to do some baby stuff. And I do not have off. I am going to pack orders. Y'all don't even know what he has planned for baby stuff. It's so cool. You work both jobs today? Good Lord, woman. You are a beast. But, you know, it is Indigenous People Day, though. I hope the Indigenous people have the day off. I really do, for their sake. I hope they have the day off. Otherwise, it's just a slap in the face, I guess. Well, here we are, Indigenous Day. Making coffee like you do. Delightful. Delightful. It smells great in here. Good morning, Avery. Well, maybe this. Your wife is over here again? Jeez, you guys should just move here from what it sounds like. I mean, call me crazy, but it sounds like you should just move to California if your wife's always going to be in California. Am I crazy? I don't know. Sounds like someone needs to move to California. Weird. Who am I to know if you should move or not? I have a bad boss today. You feel like a bad boss today? Why? I won't be able to stay for the whole thing. That's okay. I'll upload it later, Grayson. Don't even stress. Don't even stress, my dear. I will upload it for everybody because that is what we do. Because we don't want anyone to be left behind. We have deadlines and my field person went back to a hotel because it's cold. Ugh. And now she's missing the deadline. Yikes. 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 Honestly, Becca, if I did, I would. The problem is, this is the major problem with me winning the lotto. Oh, you have a few minutes. I don't play the lotto, so winning seems unlikely. Oh, you have to be not nice about it? You have to? Yeah, my problem also, Becca, is that I don't play. Yes, cuddle with the golden in bed. So I just don't know like how we're gonna win. That being said, if I win, I'm not gonna tell anyone, but there will be signs. There will be signs. Yeah, no, I would love, see here, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have to have a discussion about the deadline. Government is mad we're late. Oh, can you be like, but weather? That does sound awful, Liz. I wouldn't want to be in that position. I would not. Hey, real quick before we start, I want to tell you guys about something I found at Costco that I've never seen before, but anyone who has kids who likes to keep them away from sugar, these are sugar-free. Yes, you will be a sign. And these are really good, and they're sugar-free, delicious, and sugar-free, and pretty good price at Costco. They're called the Fruit Thief, F-R-O-O-T. I just saw them at Costco, and y'all, is Supernatural worth watching all 50 seasons? I've never seen any episodes, so I'm the wrong person to ask, Jack. So if you try to keep your kids off of added sugar, what's the sugar replacement? It's just fruit, Becca. It's just, like, I read the ingredient list. It's like strawberries and strawberry juice and grapes and grape juice and whatever like that. So Yeah, they're pretty delicious, I have to say. The fruit leather thing, I was telling everyone who has kids who tries to keep their kids away from sugar that those are a good replacement.
Just any fruit leather, right? As long as they don't sugar them.
Yeah, but these were a good price, and you can get them at Costco. Like, most people can't get, like, what we get at the farmer's market because they may not have them in their area, but those are everywhere because they're Costco. Yeah. Is there red dye? I don't know. Can you see if it says there's red dye on it? Some people are allergic to that, I know that.
They list it.
There's, like, a little cute list of ingredients.
At the very bottom.
Here, I read it before. Let me see.
I don't see it. I don't think so.
I don't think it does either. I don't remember seeing it when I was reading the ingredients. So when we were in the store, I read all the ingredients before we bought them to make sure that I could have them. It's called Fruit Thief. Yeah, no sugar, no syrups, no preservatives. Ingredients: apples, apple juice, strawberries, raspberries, black currant, black carrot extract, natural berry flavor, citrus fiber, plant fiber to prevent fruit stickiness. That's it. That's the whole ingredient list for the mixed berry kind. And then for the strawberry one, it says apples, apple juice, strawberries, black carrot extract, natural strawberry flavor, citrus fiber, and plant fiber. That's it. It's the whole list, you guys. It's kind of amazing, right? So for any of you who are trying to find cute things for your kids at a good price, I would say, yeah, you can, yeah. They just come in little individual packets like this, but they're like ropes. I'll open one and eat it because why not? But they're literally just like, it's like ropes of fruit. Like, I know, right? Sloth, it's like all the ingredients are real things. That's it. So, yeah, I don't know. They're yummy. And it's just fruit. But it's great for like a lunchbox or whatever, right? And delicious. They wanted to see what it looked like. You want some? I don't think I'll be able to eat the whole thing right now.
No, not even that.
No. Yeah. But anyway, they're really yummy. Oh, that I don't know, Liz. Exactly, Becca. It's pretty similar. Yeah. She's just talking about things that she usually puts in their lunch boxes. Yeah, the kids will never know they're healthy because they're just like little ropes of deliciousness. I don't know. Anyway.
Looks like it'd be fun to play with as a kid.
Yeah, I think I would have really liked it as a kid, and there's no weird stuff. I stole Catherine's, Becca.
Stole Catherine's what?
Costco membership. Gracie, you made your own Lunchables? That's amazing.
At some point, we should maybe split the cost with them or something.
Yeah. It's called the Fruit Thief. Like you're stealing fruit, Anya. Although don't steal anything. Got them at Costco, Jack. Or from Costco. I'd never seen them before this last trip. And when I saw the front said none of the bad stuff, I was like, what do you mean none of the bad stuff? And then I read the ingredient list and I was like, I can eat this.
What do you mean none of the bad stuff?
That's hilarious, Max. You are too clever.
What's up?
And we said the kids will never know that they're healthy, and I said it out loud, and Max, Becca's son, is sitting next to her, and he goes, what do you mean we'll never know? I'm right here when you said it. Too clever.
Healthy's not bad, Max.
It's really not bad, sweetheart. It's actually delicious. You know Aunt Sasha wouldn't eat it if it was gross.
Healthy is actually what you want.
Yeah, you want these. They're really yummy, sweetheart. They taste like candy, but it's just fruit because fruit actually tastes like candy because fruit is so delicious.
It's nature's candy.
It really is. Lunchables are a kid's charcuterie board. Yes, it's true.
Lunchables, like cardboard kid charcuterie board.
Yeah, but like the concept.
Yeah, just.
You're allergic to carrots? Really, Liz? I don't think I knew that. That sounds like you shouldn't eat this.
Do you have bad eyesight?
She does wear glasses. Weird. Yeah, that's not great at all. Carrot is in so much stuff.
Huh.
Wow. Okay, well, remind me to alter my tomato sauce if ever you...
As a rabbit, she is just mortified.
Yeah. Carrots, apples, and all stone fruit? Stop it. I wouldn't survive. What would I eat? If I couldn't have stone fruit, I eat those every single day. Literally daily. I would have to completely rework my entire existence.
You would.
Wow.
You would.
It wouldn't go well for me.
You have to steal more cabbage.
Cooked, you can eat it. Ah, okay. You can eat cooked carrots. Okay. So my sauce is not bad for you. I don't know.
That's what... interesting.
That's very funny, Jack. All right, let me get to our book because the structure changes when heated. Okay, scientist.
Well, yeah, but like, what in the structure is gone? Bless you.
Cooking breaks down the proteins.
Is there one more?
Okay, I think we're okay. Hello, Julia. It is for most of us too, Julia. Not everybody. We discovered that not everybody has today off, babe. It denatures proteins when you cook it, is what Liz is saying. By the way, the orange butter I got in the mail is fantastic. Well, I'm so glad you think so. That is one of the grab bags of the month. It was the first one. Having a Zoom meeting with oh, that sucks on you. All right.
He said orange butter. I was like, oh, what's orange butter?
We could make orange butter. I mean, you could mix like orange. Me too, Jack. Off topic, but my kids lost the Roku remote. We'll probably never find it. Oof. You know, it's times like that being a wizard would be really handy. Yeah.
Good segue.
What?
Good segue.
Yeah. Oh, I wasn't trying to segue. There's no wizards in this so far. But I was thinking...
You were reading a magic book.
I am, but I was thinking about Harry Potter and how like the parents in Harry Potter would be like, Revelio or something, and then there would be the Roku, and you'd be like, haha, there it is. Yeah, exactly. Azio Roku remote. And then it would be in your hand, and you'd be like, well, that's solved. It could be, Becca. You made honey butter for dinner rolls yesterday? Yes. I vote yes on that, Grayson. Grayson, we have an amazing Christmas meal planned for y'all. Could mix apples and oranges to make apple orange butter. Yeah, I'd say so. Oh, Liz sent a chart for you to see when we get off of here how the proteins break down because science person.
Science.
Yeah, she's so chemical.
So...
I mean, it's her whole job to be chemical.
Sure.
All right, let's read chapter 16, friends. We are 70% through with this book, and as you know, we will be done this week with this book, but I already downloaded the next one. You are so chemical, Liz. It's true. It's in your job. All right, let's go. Shortly after midnight on Halloween. Ooh, Halloween. Sorry, I got excited. Excuse me. Shortly after midnight on Halloween. No, not that voice. All the printed flowers on Essie's wallpaper burst into life, showering petals and pollen all over the carpet. This might, she later conceded, have something to do with the talents of one Josh Henderson, whose lips and tongue remained unfrozen and whose warm hands clasped her tightly as she came back down to earth. Oh my. Holy F, she gasped. No, not holy, said Josh, just really good. He sounds like all deconstructed Christians. He's like, no, don't claim that one. Her head spun, her fingertips tingled, and her muscles seemed completely unresponsive to her brain, and also wound up like springs all at the same time. Every bit of her skin felt like one giant nerve ending. Even the bedsheets feel awesome, she murmured, and she raised herself up on her elbows to look at him. Are you sure you're okay? He touched his lips. Yeah, they're not frozen. I feel great. No numbness, no tingling. He appeared to consider this. I mean, there is tingling, but it's the good kind. Essie sat up anxiously. Wait, are you sure? Because frostbite is very... He put his finger to her lips. Essie, I'm pretty sure frostbite doesn't feel good, or if it does, then this is totally awesome. He kissed her, and wow. Boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep. Everything was fine. He was fine, and she was better than fine. Everything was way better than fine.
Whoa, she said, noticing the petals all over the floor. Whoa, Josh agreed, and she followed his gaze to the wallpaper. There were flowers growing out of the wallpaper, little blue and pink ones, little petals painted with brushstrokes. Did we do that? Josh nuzzled her neck. Yeah, it looks like it. 3D wallpaper. You know where this would look really good? Essie put her fingers in his hair. Where would this look really good? My house. She laughed. What, like in your bedroom or like... I think, he grinned up at her, his eyes sparkling, maybe we could start with the bedroom and then we could see where else the wallpaper looks good. Oh yeah? Yeah, I have plans for that beanbag. She laughed and fell back against the sheet with him in her arms. His skin was damp with sweat and beep boop beep boop beep boop beep beep boop beep boop. She could have this, and she could have Josh. She could laugh with him and roll around with him and beep boop, and he knew about her witching, and he didn't mind. As she dissolved into pleasure, she didn't notice the petals on the carpet turning to ash. Uh-oh, that does not sound like a positive. There was a definite chill in the air as Josh and Essie left Beldam House, but it was a good chill. The air was fresh and clean, with hints of wood smoke, and trees were still showing the last of their fiery autumn leaves. A warm jacket had been located for Josh, who wasn't surprised anymore to find that it fit perfectly. He'd also been given a scarf. He'd been too busy kissing Essie when they left to even put the scarf on. He held her hand as they walked down the drive. This felt exactly right. Her pace easily matched his pace as they were walking, like they'd been walking together for years, and every now and then she'd glance up at him and smile, her cheeks turning an adorable pink. The last few days had been... well, they'd been nothing short of spectacular. Essie's crippling fear of Beep Boop had moved to a more or less unfounded fear. A terrible moment when she lost control so many years ago, and she wouldn't tell him how many times it had been eating at her ever since. Josh had simply taken his time so that nothing crept up on her unexpectedly, and she learned to control herself bit by bit. It had been simple and very rewarding. She nudged his shoulder as they walked along, apparently for no reason other than to remind him that she was still there, as if he could forget she was there. Whatever perception spell the house had on him seemed to have worn off completely, possibly because he'd spent several days within its walls naked with Essie. Hey, was Blessing really mad at us about those plants? He asked. Oh no. Essie pushed her glasses back up her nose. Her red hair sprang out from beneath the knitted hat she wore, and she looked absolutely adorable. Served that mutant flytrap right for eating my t-shirt before. And what about the parrots? Essie shrugged. The glass parrots had flown, squawking all around the conservatory, and they were now sitting sedated on their lamppost, barely moving unless Blessing poked them with a broom handle. Nobody could figure out how. None of the house's inhabitants had any specific magic that might have affected the birds. Apart from making all the paintings burst into flowers, Avery had noted. They went back to normal afterwards, Essie protested. It was alarming though, dear, Avery said. And what you did to my fly traps, Blessing complained. They've been thriving all year, and now they're turning black. Well, they turn black every winter, said Essie. Don't they? Like, isn't it a hibernation thing for them? Yeah, but not all in one go, grumbled Blessing. Josh had tried to sympathize, but the truth was he couldn't care less. He and Essie had spent several days exploring the 101 ways that he could make her beep boop beep boop beep boop beep, and he was way too pleased with himself to care about some mutant plants. Do you know where we are now? Said Essie as her hand tightened in Josh's a bit. Josh looked around the woods, and he hadn't really thought that they went that deep into the dark forests in this part of England, but the footpath was surrounded on one side anyway. Looks like we're somewhere spooky where the Essex lion is gonna eat me, he said. Do you guys remember that the Essex lion was in Land of Stories also? Tidbit. Essie's green eyes glowed. Well, if there's any eating going on, she purred, it's going to be by me. He grinned. Yeah, I'll look forward to that. He curved her toward him and kissed her, and something still he hadn't gotten tired of, and he didn't think he ever would. Said Essie, keeping her arm around his neck. We're just off the edge of Beldam House property border. Do you... For just a second, panic flashed across her eyes. Wait, you remember who I am, right? Huh? Josh said, pretending to think about it. Maybe like a hot stranger who kisses like the devil? I'm pleased to meet you. Josh, she said quietly, this is important. I know who you are, Essie. He kissed the tip of her nose. I know every part of you, and I always will. She smiled at that and she kissed him again and then said, I'm just checking. But you remember about the house, right? And everything that happened there? Everything? Josh groaned. Like, Essie, about a month's worth of stuff has happened in the last week. My sister had a baby in the middle of a hurricane. You and I time traveled. We had beep boop in a conservatory, and a painting did the third landing and winked at me. It did? A painting on the third landing winked at me. It did? Yeah, some lady with hair like a spaniel told me that I was very flattered. Or I told her I was very flattered, but I have a girlfriend. A smile crept across Essie's face. You have a girlfriend? Yeah. He smoothed back a bit of the hair that kept blowing across her face. This hot girl who kisses like the devil. I told you that. Oh, she sounds amazing, said Essie against his mouth. She really, really is. They kissed again for longer this time, and Josh was wondering how private the woods really were when a voice said, I do not wish to interrupt thy loving dears, but you did promise to fetch back the baby carriage for Miss Sienna before it falls dark. Essie's eyes flew open and Josh began to turn towards Prudence's voice. No, hissed Essie, don't look at us. Or don't look at Prudence. He'd somehow become used to the idea that Prudence was the sort of ghost that would just appear. She was just another person around Beldam House, really. No strangers other than that. We're on our way, Prudence, called Essie. Her eyes were full of warning. The baby do be thriving, Prudence said fondly. He looks so handsome in the arms of his uncle. Josh, who still wasn't sure what to do with the baby other than hand it back to Sienna in short order, turned to thank her, but Essie shook her head rapidly and put her hand on his face to stop him. No, don't. Let's go this way. Don't look at her. Please, don't. Josh, of course, wanted to look, but Essie practically dragged him away as Prudence's cackle faded on the breeze. He couldn't help himself, though, and he glanced back just for 1 second, like Orpheus turning back to Eurydice. And he saw a woman swinging by the neck from a rope, and she waved at him. And Josh stumbled, his heart nearly exploding with panic. The fuck? Essie glanced past him and carefully turned his back to the ghastly sight. I told you not to look. She was pretty much holding him up now. She was, oh God, that was Prudence? Yes. Hanging? Yes. Sometimes she just goes back there. I don't know why. Maybe to get some peace from the living. But she's... Josh couldn't get the image of Prudence waving out of his head. She likes that? Essie shrugs. I don't know. Prudence is an odd duck. I suspect that that's what got her hung in the first place. She made him keep walking, and this time Josh forced himself to keep his eyes straight ahead. Was she hanged by Hopkins? No, she would have been about 100 years after that. Huh. She was probably the last person who paid you rent, if we're being honest. She was. Essie shrugged. Well, I suspect none other residents of the house were what you might call official residents. And with the perception spell and all that, I guess your ancestors just completely forgot about the house, just like you kept forgetting about the house. She nudged his shoulder again, until I hammered the thought back into you. Josh glanced back down at her. Some of his good humor was restored. Well, if we're going to get technical, I think I was the one doing the hammering, he said and grinned. And then it faded, and the footsteps around the corner and Lilith came into view. Hello, Lilith, said Essie. Lilith had discarded her 17th century dress and with some considerable reluctance for what she kept calling unstructured leisure wear. Currently, her idea of leisure wear seemed to be a wasp-waist vintage Dior suit and shiny cherry red high heels. Her immaculate hair was topped with a hat that sported both a feather and a small veil. Esabet! She was shorter than Josh, but still managed to look down her nose at him. And Joshua. Josh thought about correcting her, but honestly, he couldn't be bothered. I have been to see Mrs. Sockburn's family, she said. They have agreed to clear out the house by the end of the week. Do we really know who the landlord is? Yeah. Josh waved at her. Me. Lila looked over him as if trying to work out if he was telling a joke. He owns half the village, Essie said. Did you say that you went to see her family? Don't they live in, like, Manchester or something? Like? Elizabeth, really? I despair of this modern vocabulary. Lilith straightened her gloves. No, we can't all live in the past, Mother. Lilith shrugged as if to say it had never been a problem for her. I do hope that you caused no problems back there. You said you performed the first binding of Hopkins? Yeah? Essie shivered and Josh put his arm around her. Lilith frowned and it formed a tiny wrinkle in her porcelain forehead. It was... Sorry. You are listening to some very funnies? He's cackling to himself over there.
What?
I said you were cackling to yourself. You looked like you were very much enjoying whatever you were listening to.
I'm sorry, it was funny. Maybe
Oh, I know, you should. You should laugh. It was just funny because you looked very happy about it.
That was amusing.
It should be amusing. We are also amused, separately and differently. It was traditionally done by Ellis Goodwin, she said, the daughter of the house. One can only assume she continued to repeat your ritual. But did she even see the ritual? Said Essie. I thought I heard someone, but... Hey, maybe she did, Josh said. But look, someone else has been performing the ritual, right? I mean, like, ever since the 1640s. Lilith sighed. Up until last week, someone had been performing the ritual since the 1640s, she corrected. This does not mean that the ritual has always been performed since the 1640s. Why do people find temporal thinking so difficult? I honestly can't imagine, Essie said. But look, we fixed it. I performed the first ritual, and it's been done ever since. We did it early this time, and everything is fine. She tilted her head. Remind me, why did we do it early? Lilith looked for the first time as if she was mystified. I felt compelled to return and immediately felt him stirring here. The earth, it rebelled. I don't know how you didn't feel it. I just bring in the winter, said Essie, as if it was a minor talent and anyone could do it. And a very nice winter it is, too, said Josh. If you'll excuse us, ma'am, we're going to go pick up a baby seat so that we can take Sienna home. The car was still skewed across the drive of Beldam House, but both he and Essie had felt like a walk. Can you imagine the first Hopkins born on British soil for generations? My nephew. 2 generations, Essie said dryly. Your grandfather was from Chelsea. Generations, Josh repeated firmly, and then she rolled her eyes at him and grinned. But Lilith's pale face had gone rigid. Hopkins, she said. Yeah. Turns out Josh is the great-great-whatever grandson of the old monster himself. Didn't you know that he had a son? Yes. He was being raised by Agatha so that he might learn some goodness in humanity, whispered Lilith. Hesabet, I must speak with you immediately. She dragged Essie a little ways away and toward the lane that bordered the wood and turned her for a furious conversation. Josh caught very little of it, but her tone was clear. Lilith was horrified that Essie was dating a Hopkins. Well, she would just have to be horrified. Josh knew that he wasn't a monster, and in fact, Essie had even seemed to think that he was a little magical himself. He disagreed, but he would be willing to play it up if it placated her terrifying mother. He scuffled his feet into the dirt. Funny how Lilith's red heels were completely immaculate. He bet dirt was frightened to land on those shoes. Mother, that is completely unreasonable. It was getting pretty cold now. The wind whistled down the lane and through the trees. Josh recalled the scarf that he'd been given and dug it out of his pocket to wind it around his neck. Only making you think that... He sighed. Was he going to have to go break up this argument? Granted, he was not the poster boy for excellent family relationships, but he didn't think it was right that Lilith spent so much time in the past and then just reappeared randomly to mess up Essie's life. Not that Essie wasn't doing a brilliant job of standing up to her, but... Josh scratched at his neck. What was this scarf made of? It prickled and tingled at his skin. It was like horsehair or something. He'd never worn something so uncomfortable in his soul. Ow! He yanked and he pulled the thing from his neck and held it at arm's length, but the wire wool or whatever it was seemed to be scraping at his fingers. He flung it to the ground. Josh, see how he rejects our gifts. Maud knitted that for you, Lilith said accusingly, and Essie bent to pick up the scarf. From what? Barbed wire? He rubbed at his neck. It felt like he'd been scoured. It's just normal wool. Do you perhaps have an allergy? No. He could feel Lilith stare on him, and she stood there with her arms folded. Essie came closer and peered at his neck. It looks fine. I told you. You heal fast. Maud knitted that, said Lilith. Yeah, it's just a scarf, Mother. Lilith made a dismissive sound. Show me. With bad grace, Essie did. Lilith examined it as Essie fussed over Josh's neck, which felt fine now that there was no scarf touching it. Any exciting portents there in the knitting and purling? Essie asked archly. Lilith glowered at them. Perhaps it's because he's a Hopkins and it's a witch-made garment. No, he's wearing Avery's clothes, Essie protested. This is nonsense, Mother. We've got some things to do. I will see you later. She grabbed Josh's arms and towed him away down the lane, leaving the scarf in Lilith's hands and his neck somewhat drafty. Why can't I say that word? It's really ridiculous. Hey, what was that all about? He asked as the cold swirled around them. Ugh, my mother's just being absurd. She thinks because you're a Hopkins, you're going to harm all of us. Josh said, well, you know that's not true, right? I mean, look at me. I can't even kill a spider. I know. And Avery and Blessing and Prudence and everyone else knows that. And Maud. Josh scratched at his neck. Essie frowned. Well, I don't know what was up with that scarf. Maybe you really do have a wool allergy. Yeah, maybe. Look, Essie. He stopped and took her hands. You know the whole Hopkins thing is nothing, right? He's like my 1,000,000 times great-grandfather. So what? It doesn't mean anything. Who was your 1,000,000 times great-grandfather? Essie raised an eyebrow. Francis Godwin. She nodded in the direction of Felden House, the man whose cellar we were locked in. Josh faltered. What? Yeah, I looked it up. The one who the village was named after, his daughter Ellis inherited the house, remember? The one gathering nuts in May? The one who accused us of being witches? Essie sighed. You know what witch phobia really says about you, right? We're descended from her, me and Lilith anyway. She looked at herself. She shook herself. She was just being a paranoid old besom about it. She is always like that, just controlling. That's my mother. Josh hugged her because he could tell a thing or two about that. Maybe he could tell her a thing or two about that, and maybe he should. They started walking again, hand in hand. And I know she's wrong about you, Essie said. That's the really important thing, right? That I know? Yeah, he smiled at her. I mean, really, I mean you no harm. I love witches. Well, one of them anyway, he thought. That didn't surprise him as much as it might. He was in love with Essie. Of course he was. Essie was amazing. Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that. They walked on together for a while, the sun warming in the fine autumn day. As they skirted the edge of the common, Josh said, there is maybe something I should tell you, though. Oh, God. Do you have a pentagram tattoo or something that I haven't found yet? Actually, scratch that. If it was there, I would have found it. There's no way that you have a... He smiled at her, but it was a tense smile. No, it's not a tattoo. I'm too chicken for tattoos. Josh, you're not in the slightest bit chicken. He sighed. Well, that's not what Maya would say. Who's Maya? Josh took a deep breath. My ex. He ended up telling her everything from the first time he met Maya at a corporate event with the high maintenance hair and the rock hard nails and the lip liner that didn't even budge even when she stuck her tongue down his throat at a buffet. He thought that he'd been impressed by her, and it had actually taken him a long time to realize that he was actually just terrified of her. He didn't remember ever actually agreeing to date Maya, just being told when and where to pick her up and being ridiculed for the type of car he had. Maya earned more than him, and she still expected him to pay. Maya hated his apartment, but she moved all her stuff into it anyway. Maya told him that he should be more ambitious, dress better, push harder at work. Maya coached him on better interviewing skills, mostly shouting at him until he just cried. Maya made him throw out his Nirvana CDs and cherished vintage tour t-shirt. And I loved that shirt, he told Essie sadly. He'd got it on eBay. They went for hundreds these days. Maya made Josh into a different person, a person he never really wanted to be in the first place. She molded him into her doll and stuck pins in him to make him comply. Oh, Josh, said Essie as they turned down the path towards his house. She sounds awful. She put her arm around him. Funny, they were on the footpath that Essie had led him down that very first day when he'd been so unsure of her. And for what reason? Essie wasn't going to walk him down the dark path so that she could laugh at his terror. Essie wasn't going to try to change him to suit her. But you left her in Seattle, right? She can't follow you here. Beans, Mary, I'm sorry. That doesn't sound good at all. Is he okay? Oh, yeah, I left her. Took all my stuff and moved into a motel, left her. He hadn't had any friends to count on. They'd been something else Maya disapproved of. All the people he'd socialized with were her friends, and he'd come to realize they were just as unpleasant as she was. Good. Did she come after you? Not until I canceled my rent and the landlord evicted her, said Josh. It was a shame. It had been a nice apartment. I was honestly terrified that she'd find me. I didn't know if she'd scream at me or try to seduce me or whatever. He shuddered, and Essie's expression turned to concern. Hey, Josh? Essie's arms around him were warm and comforting. Her hands cupped the back of his neck, and her eyes promised that he could trust her. She liked to... Look, you think you're the only one who has hang-ups around, you know? Said Josh. Why are we talking here? It's really public. Sorry, why are we talking here? It's really public. Anyone could overhear us. And Essie glanced around. There was no one within eyesight, and hadn't been since they started talking, but she said, yeah, you're right. Let's keep going. And Josh, she added as they went, yeah? His hand was trembling in hers. You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to. The sun was setting over the newly plowed fields as they walked the narrow footpath. Sun filtered through the trees with their last handfuls of bright red and yellow leaves, setting the world on fire. The sky was ablaze with a hot pink and orange clouds. Dead leaves crackled beneath their feet. Overhead, crows cawed. It's probably nothing, Josh said eventually. Well, if it's nothing, then you can just say it, said Essie reasonably. His heart pounded. You're just so confident about everything. She laughed. Yeah, no, I'm really not. You walk around these woods like nothing frightens you. Oh, well, that's because there's nothing in them that does frighten me. No bears, remember that? She nodded. She added, nudging him. What about murderers or something? Essie snorted. Listen, I can freeze the bollocks of someone, so... You see, you're not afraid. Essie gave him a curious look. Josh, I'm afraid all the time. Do you not remember the last few days? They were about me being terrified of hurting you. He clung to that. Yeah, you were afraid of that, but I knew you wouldn't. Back in the 17th century, you asked me to trust you, and I don't know, I just guess I do. She squeezed his hand. Yeah, I trust you too. Josh took a deep breath. You'd never try to have relations with me while I was unconscious, right? For a moment, the only sound was their footsteps crunching on the fallen leaves. Then, she did what? Said Essie. Her voice was dangerously low. It was a few months after his father had died, and Josh told himself he wasn't affected by the death of the man he barely knew. But maybe he had been, because he'd thrown himself into work and done everything that Maya told him to, and hadn't entirely realized how bleak his life had become until he swallowed. Yeah, I was asleep, and she... His voice stopped working. The F she did! Essie sounded furious. Right, you get me on a plane to Seattle because your ex-girlfriend is going to learn a detail or two about the exact meaning of colder than a witch's tit. Josh exhaled, too shaken to make a joke about the relative temperature of Essie's breasts. You don't think... He tried to remember how his colleagues had put when he tentatively raised the subject in a purely theoretical way. It would just be like, you would always think it would be awesome to wake up like that, right? Like, no, are you kidding me? That is not consensual. And if I woke up to a man doing that to me, whether or not he was my boyfriend, I would freeze more than just his peen. I can tell you that. She really did that to you? I can't even believe that. Josh nodded, kind of relieved. If she'd reacted like his coworkers, he didn't know what he would do. Essie hugged him there on the edge of the frosty field. He wasn't sure when it had become frosty, but he figured Essie had something to do with that. Look, I'm sorry, she said. I'm sorry that happened to you, and I'm so glad you got away. Josh hugged her back, relief filling every part of him. Essie understood, and he could trust her. They started walking again, and Josh had never been so glad to hold someone's hand in his life. Everyone thought I was crazy when I quit my job, he said. I've been chasing a promotion I realized I didn't even want, and I realized I hated everyone I worked with in the company that I worked for, so I quit my job. Yeah, I quit it and quit my relationship, and on the same day, and then I called in sick, and I packed up everything that I owned, which was very little, and into the car that Maya had nagged me into buying, and I just drove away. He could remember the dizzying sensation of freedom as he'd left that day. He felt giddy for the first time in his life. He had no plans and nowhere to go, and it was still better than where he'd been. I spent the rest of my day canceling my rent, changing all my passwords, anything she had access to. I sold that car. Had a panic attack about getting a new apartment with no job. Realized I didn't really want to go back into law. Hence Sienna's suggestion falling on deaf ears. Yeah, he smiled. It's funny though. Sienna was the one who gave me a route out. I don't think she has any idea how much she actually helped me. For a second, he could almost feel Essie trying to work out what the impressively self-absorbed Sienna could possibly have done to help someone, but he took pity on her. She called to ask something really weird about whether I had any family history of diabetes or high blood pressure. Now I realize why, he groaned. It was probably 3 or 4 months ago. She would have been doing all her antenatal stuff, right? Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I don't know why I didn't realize it. It was a really weird conversation. Well, I assume you had other stuff on your mind? Essie said dryly. Yeah, true. No, I guess so. Anyway, I said something about the motel's terrible cell reception, and then I had to explain that I'd left Maya, and Sienna doesn't know any of the stuff that I just told you. By the way, please don't mention it. He added in a sudden panic. His sister did not need the burden of his relationship trauma right now. No, understood, Essie said. She said, oh my god, it was the most rich person thing I've ever heard anyone say. She said, don't you have somewhere else to stay? Like, yeah, I'm just living in a motel for the fun of it. Sure, that's what people do. I suppose she just has mansions all over the place. Yeah, Josh said simply, and Essie burst out laughing. Essie, you wouldn't believe how rich she is. Like, she has shares and dividends and stuff before, but our father left her the bulk of his money, and well, it's like a lot. It's like a lot. Wow, I picked the wrong sibling, I guess, Essie said, nudging his shoulder. Yeah, all I have is a falling down farmhouse, Josh said as it came into sight. She has a whole empty beach house in Malibu, which, and I quote, you'd really be doing me a favor by staying there. I thought you always had a kind soul, Essie teased. That's me, favors for everyone. So yeah, I went there and stayed there to get myself back together again. And then one day she said, hey Josh, did you ever go check out that house in England? This house, Essie said. This house. It was looking better now, he had to admit. Sienna's army of workmen had finished the roof and the kitchen, and he'd been assured that the suite of rooms she wanted upstairs had absolutely been completed. So I guess I've got Sienna to thank for you being here, Essie said, squeezing his arm. For what? For you, dummy. Like, you might still be in Malibu if she hadn't told you to come, and now you're with me. That's true. Josh looked up at the handsome red brick farmhouse that was now his home and groaned. All right, great. Something else I have to thank Sienna for. The baby, like all babies, was a tiny, squashed-looking creature who slept most of the time and screamed the rest of the time. Please come back to the house with me, muttered Josh under his breath, eyes full of panic. I don't think I can do this by myself. You won't be by yourself, as he said, folding a baby blanket. You'll have Sienna. Sienna was rocking the baby in her arms, apparently oblivious to its screaming. Essie, he had never looked more desperate, not even when they were locked in the cellar. I'm begging you. She grinned. Yeah, no, of course I'll come with you. I'll even rustle up some earplugs. How about that? Oh my God, I love you so much, Josh said and kissed her, and then looked a bit stunned. Sure, you would say that, said Essie lightly, trying not to let her elation bubble up too much. All right, so they hadn't been together very long. She still didn't know exactly what parameters they were even operating under, but she knew him now. She knew him bone deep. She'd exposed her truest self and her worst demons to him, and he'd done the same thing, and neither of them had run away screaming from one another. She'd liked to freeze the tits off his evil ex-girlfriend, but that was about the extent of it. They drove Sienna back to Brook Manor Farm and marveled at the changes the workmen had made, picked up a takeaway and settled down to watch Sienna's beloved cozy crafting shows. This is the worst concealed zipper I have ever seen, Essie said, crunching on a prawn cracker. Yeah, I know, said Josh, his arm around her as they laid on the new sofa. A fire burned cheerfully in the newly cleared fireplace. How hard is it to align seams, anyway? Essie raised her eyebrow at him. I'm sorry, I've watched way too many of these shows with her now, haven't I? She snuggled into his body. You can help Avery with their next sewing project, it sounds like, she said. Huh, that's what not to do example I'd be providing for them, maybe. A snore came from Sienna's direction. We could put on something else now that she's asleep, Essie suggested. No, wait, I want to see if the girl with the nose ring can pull off the pattern matching, Josh said, and Essie thought that might have been a moment she realized that she was in love with him, too. She was so in love with him, in fact, that she dismissed the shapes of the flickering fire as a draft in the old house. Tomorrow was the cross-quarter day, a day she would traditionally be performing the winter ritual, but she'd already done that, so she didn't pay any attention to the moaning of the cold outside the house or the scratching of the branches on the window panes as she followed Josh to bed. She peeled off his clothes and kissed him hotly and didn't see the piece of parchment on the windowsill twisted and burst into flames that burned out as soon as they started. She didn't think any more about the scarf that had scratched Josh or about the fly traps that burned black and then died. She fell into heat and glory of Josh, ravenous for him and oblivious to everything else. She fell asleep in his arms, supremely content with the world, and it wasn't until the screaming started that she realized something had gone terribly wrong. Uh-oh! What a cliffhanger. Sheesh. That's where they're gonna leave us for today? Yikes bikes! Oh no! Ah, beans! Doesn't sound good at all. Somebody's screaming, we don't even know who it is. unfortunately, I have to go get ready to go to the pumpkin patch. Otherwise, I would read one more and tell you. But I literally have to go meet my sister and the kids at the pumpkin patch, so I have to go. But we'll read it tomorrow. Crazy. It's crazy times. Someone is screaming. Yeah, books and their cliffhangers. All right, I will be on later for slime stuff. I don't know exactly what time. If you are on Patreon, Roll for Slime signups for Wednesday are up, both for Roll for Slime and custom tiers, but also for birthdays. Yeah, you know what that's from, right, Naisa? It's from Never Been Kissed, which is one of my favorite movies. She's when Josie's like in her like trying to convince them, and she goes, "Yikes, bikes." And I always say that because I watched that movie like 12 times at the theater when I was a kid. But anyway, it's a great movie. If you've never seen Never Been Kissed, I highly recommend it, although it didn't age perfectly. Anyway, we're going to go to the pumpkin patch. I will be back on later. Go sign up for your Roll for Slimes, whether they be on your tier or birthdays or whatever you want. More orders are going to be mailed tomorrow. I really want to, Jack, I'm like working out how to do that because I think it's a great idea that you had. I think it would be a really fun thing to do. And maybe we would open them all on like a Zoom or something. And like, I don't know, it seems like it would be very cool. I'm going to try to work it out. It sounds like a really fun thing. And just so everyone knows, I'm trying to get pre-orders for advent calendars done by like, I want to have them up probably by like November 1st, because then I need to mail them by like November 20th, obviously, to get them to you to open on December 1st. You know what I mean? I didn't really, my brain wasn't thinking properly. I was like, oh, I'll put them up in December. And I was like, wait, that doesn't even work. Advent calendars have to be to you by December 1st. So I was like, oh my God, November is going to be all advent calendar, pretty much, right? I mean, that seems obvious. I think there's just it was so many last year. There's no way that I could do anything else and complete the advent calendars. It's just not possible. There's just too many. Because it's so many slimes, either 12 or 24 per person, and last year there was like 100 of them. It's a lot of slime, you guys. Yeah, I think last year the advent calendars ended up being somewhere in the range of 2,500 slimes, so that's a lot of slime. So anyway, I'm gonna be working on that tomorrow. The post office is closed today, so no orders will mail today, but I've been packing orders. They will mail tomorrow. I will see you all this afternoon to make more slime, and then the advent calendars come in 2 different prices, Danny. It depends on which size you want. I haven't worked out the price this year because it's just dependent on the change of ingredient prices. But last year, I believe they were $110 and $145 respectively. Only a couple of ingredients have changed prices, some up, some down. So I just need to do a little bit of finagling to see what the cost is. Just so everyone knows, some will be brand new slimes. I've already imagined about 10 new slimes for it. Some will be returning favorites because there's some that I'm not going to say which ones because I want it to be a surprise, but there's some that people have wanted year after year, and so those are going to be included. Of course, there will of course be a special sticker as there was before, and some other fun, and they will come in the fun cute Christmas boxes like they did last year. Me too. So, oh, and also I have an idea for something special involving those. So I'm going to put that info up on Patreon soon. But I love you all. I'm going to go get ready for the day. I will see you all this afternoon for sliming. Bye. Mwah. Yes, advent calendars, Jen, and you know I owe you one.